Hello, and thank you for joining. My name is Kushal Nagraj from JCPenney. I currently head the India procurement team. With us, we have Dinesh Lakshmanan from Honeywell. He currently is the director of procurement. I've worked with Dinesh very closely, and I can tell you from experience that he's one of the great leaders. And first of all, welcome Dinesh for this talk show. And
great moment for me.
Likewise, and hopefully, at the end of this entire recording, the viewers take away the nuggets of wisdom, that the plethora of experience that you come with. So, my first and foremost question is, what is it that you do at Honeywell today, and how has it transformed from the last 20 years that you have seen the industry?
Okay, I'm in Honeywell for last 7 years now, and currently I manage the indirect procurement for India.
Okay.
So my responsibility is to make sure that the procurement metrics are met for the procurement organization. Also, my responsibility is to make sure that the stakeholders are satisfied with the procurement deliverables.
Right.
So all the escalations also is my responsibility to get it sorted out.
Okay. And how do you think the industry has transformed? You've been in the industry for
close to around 25 years now.
25 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I can really look up to you right now. So, so how has it transformed in terms of how is procurement positioning itself today versus the last decade or last 20 years back?
Okay. Earlier, if you look into, might be around 20 years back or 25 years back, procurement was an admin organization. It was like a back-end organization.
Absolutely,
where people do everything and then finally say, okay, this is what I want to give to supplier, and cut the check and give it to supplier.
Right.
So from there, and the organization also was mostly a site-based or entity-based or that business-based. Then it slowly started growing. It became a regional organization where they tried to put all the procurement folks together and then made it a regional organization. Then it became an APAC or a country organization, region-wise, and then it became a global organization.
Right.
That's on the organization front. Now, if you look into the other side of the capabilities, earlier it's always called as a buyer, but there's nothing else was there.
Yeah.
Slowly, it became into a center of excellence. Who have what capability, and accordingly that person was being developed. Right. So there has category leaders start developing in, functional transformation leaders start developing in. Right. Then there are digital analytics guys started developing in. Then procurement operation teams started developing. So if you look into today, most of the organizations have three verticals. One is the commodity strategy vertical. Other one is the procurement operation vertical, where they make sure that the purchase orders is flows out, whatever the cycle time is met. And then the functional transformation team or the digital procurement team who manages all the digital automation, other activities.
Absolutely. And I think we are putting out so much of data nowadays, right? Everybody's playing with data, and the emergence of analytics, artificial intelligence, cognitive approaches. So how much does, and I know Honeywell, it buys out a lot of companies, and you deal with a lot of legacy data. How do you translate the data into information with so much of data available with you? I'm sure you have the analytics team and things like that. But in procurement perspective, right? How do you manage the tailspin piece of it?
Yeah. So first thing, let me take up the data.
Okay.
So there's a huge volume of the data generated.
Yes.
We speak a lot about today of bots, AI, big data, then many of that automation programs or tools what we talk about. A lot of data has been generated. So today organizations looking into how you can get the data is today power for the procurement team.
Absolutely.
But how do you do a right analytic and feed it to the right requirements? Because just having 1,000 lines or 10,000 lines of Excel sheet will not help a procurement person to know what to be delivered. Yes. So how do you transform that data into a deliverable model or an execution model? I think that is where we need to really focus on, where we need to, very important it is. And the second question you asked about
how do you translate this data into information?
I think
that's in the tailspin piece of it.
Okay.
How do you manage the tailspin?
Okay. On the tailspin part, if I talk about an indirect procurement, 20% of volume contributes to 80% of the value, and balance 80% of the volume contributes to only 20% of the value. Right. But if you look into the total organization of the time spent by the team, I think this 80% of the low spend, tail spend, these are the core issues organization face on. Right. And not only the organization, not only the procurement organization, even the stakeholders and customers face. Right. Because today, a small item which is so so critical in nature, but a procurement organization with a managing 100, 200 million, that doesn't really put importance onto that.
Right.
So how do you make this tail and spend more cataloged or more organized?
Yes.
And it should not be a problem, or it should not be an issue for an end user to convert that small requirement to a large discussion point. So
right.
what generally the organizations are looking into it, how do you consolidate the tail spends?
Right.
Second thing is, how do you automate the tail spends?
Yes.
Third is, can we put in an online catalogs, or
Absolutely.
can we add on specific strategy
Right.
to make sure that you consolidate all together and give it to a larger vendor,
Right.
or whether we need to route it through an integrator so that we doesn't get into all this day-to-day
Yes.
issues, or even a lot of organizations outsourcing the total tail spend.
Yes.
Why we need to have this tail spend? It is basically the expectation of the tail spend is to have a quicker turnaround. It is
Yes.
not for bringing in the savings results or bringing in other metrics.
Right.
So instead of as a core organization managing the tail spend, let us outsource the tail organization on a service model.
Right.
They meet your service levels, and then that gets delivered. That's what
I think you hit the nail, right? So it's absolutely, I think most of us, when I was in Honeywell 5 years back, right, one of the things that we brought in was hosted catalogs and then punch out catalogs.
That's right.
So in order to reduce the tail spend, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And that's not, a person with your position should not be focusing on tail spend, because you have many more strategic things to do. So how do we channelize this?
That's right.
Because if you go by the data today that was released by Gartner, the cost of issuing a PO is almost $100 per PO.
Yeah.
So how do we reduce that? So I think
not only the cost what we talk about, see, time and effort which has been put in by not only the procurement guys, but the stakeholders also.
Okay.
We are also looking into the e-commerce which is coming in India now.
Right.
There is a lot of change of the mindset which people have today. Right. Like earlier, when anything if you want to do, you go through a purchase order or PR model. Now, or you need to go personally and do the purchases or whatever. That mindset is slowly changing now to an e-com model, because of the Amazons or the Flipkarts or whatever it's coming. Right. People all want something which I ordered today, need to get it tomorrow.
Yes.
Because it is available everywhere. Why should I get into all through this process?
Yes.
So that's where every organization looking into how can I channelize these type of activities to get a better performance out of
absolutely. And I think now the customer thought process has changed. Now it's all about instant gratification.
Yeah.
They want to order a product and get it tomorrow. And I think the business also.
Yeah.
So that brings me to the next question. How important is planning in procurement?
Yeah.
So we are involved in budgeting and forecasting and things like that. So, sorry, how much is planning important to you?
See, if you look into most of the organizations have an annual operating plan.
Yes.
A lot of companies that is managed by only the finance team. But what we are seeing nowadays, it is when the annual operating plan is being done, even the procurement team also is part of the annual operating plan.
Yes.
So the procurement contribution should be coming in the starting stage itself, not at the time of cutting the PO. Absolutely. So why this changes has happening now is because today there are a set of strategic procurement team sitting over there who looks into larger contracts, look into larger value of procurement, and they cannot work at the last minute if the requirement comes in, I want to have something today. Right. So they have to start working from the starting itself. So that's where the procurement organization is slowly moving into a value-add organization. Right. Like as I mentioned, it was earlier a back-end organization, an admin operation. Today you are looking into value-add operation. How do we add value to the organization? Right. I think that's one point which I talk about. Then other thing on the planning part. Now the procurement earlier, when you get a requirement, then you go to the market, then you understand that get the quotation, then you start work on. But today, through these type of trainings what we have today, I think most of them are rethinking into it. How are we doing a real negotiation planner? Yes. So before going into the negotiation, before getting into this actual action, you need to have a lot of homework to be done onto that. So that gets you prepared to go for your negotiation. Right. So I think that changes is coming, and surely the largest spend, whatever it is, these are one of the basic requirements all the organization is expecting. How do you plan? And before getting into the market, you should at least project saying that this is what my final end product could be. Absolutely.
And I think a couple of years back, you moved to a completely new campus. Just want to understand, was cost based on design or design based on cost?
See, whatever you talk about cost, design, everything. See, cost is not the only parameter to buy
for sure. Yeah.
anything and everything.
Yeah.
Let it be a campus or let it be any product, whatever it is. See, as a purchase organization, cost is one of the parameter, and most of them, most of the case, cost is the important parameter, because until unless if you don't have budget, you cannot do anything.
For sure.
That is one part. But the second part is the main important part is the quality.
Okay.
Of the product what you're buying.
Okay.
Let it be a new campus, let it be a procurement, let it be any services what you're buying.
Right.
So that's also the another important part.
Right.
And cost could be a contribution of the procurement, or could be supplier, or could be the stakeholder. But if you talk about the quality, you really need to really work with all of them together, and really plan in such a way that you get a right product at right price, the right quality. So today when we are going through this program, Abid was mentioning, saying that we don't want to buy goods and services.
Yes.
We want to buy performance. So that was the thing which was keep on coming on top of my mind again and again. See, we should have a performance type of performance model of procurement than a goods and service procurement model. I think that is where
that's a brilliant takeaway.
Have I answered your question
rightly? You have, definitely.
Okay, because I moved into slightly into another subject. Okay.
My other question is adoption of technology, right?
Okay.
How easy is it for you to convince the stakeholders to invest in procurement for the betterment of the company? We are no longer seen as somebody who increases the bottom line or decreases the bottom line, but position ourselves as a value generators.
Okay.
So for that, we need tools and technologies, right?
Yeah.
So how easy is it for you to adopt to a new technology compared to somebody implementing the similar technology in Honeywell, US or Europe?
Okay. See, whatever technology you are investing, the ROI has to be clear.
Absolutely. Yeah.
See, what is your return of investment? That should be very clear before we do the technology. There are many technologies in the market, but it's not that every technology we start trying it or putting it and see, okay, this is not working and let us go for the next one.
Right.
So whatever you are doing, if it's basically for a larger company, you need to look for a long term.
Right.
And it should be an agile model, as I am sure that you have been knowing much well about agility or agile model. So we are not going to, as an organization, I don't recommend anyone to invest a large tool or automation tool, and finally you end up after 1 year saying that this is not working, let us not get into it. See, it has to be in steps, and each step when you're taking forward, you should also look into what the return of investment of the automation what you're doing. And if that is convinced, I'm sure that all the organization will be ready to invest for that automation.
Right.
And today there are many startups coming in India, which is excellent and brilliant technologies.
Right.
Only thing is when you are investing for all that type of things, you need to also make sure how consistent they are in. Okay, today there are a lot of tools available in the market, but once you start loading onto the tools, there could be so many issues coming in and many service support required. But there are sometimes you will see challenges. So that's how might be you need to really look into also.
Absolutely, Dinesh. One of the things that I've seen in my experience is we might implement a new technology for the betterment of the company, but the adoption rate of that tool could be very less.
Okay.
Right. So we have teams using still prefer Excel over MATLAB or a couple of other analytical tools.
I agree.
But I think it's a lot of perception management for leaders like you to make that transformational change in that.
Yeah, you are right on that. So I also feel always whenever we get into an automation, we should understand the core issues of the stakeholder or the customer. So when he has a core customer, try to understand what the root cause of that issue, and try to get something which that helps him to come over that. So surely the adoption becomes faster. It is not a compelled push. What we get into them, getting into them. They themselves feel that okay, this is the right thing which I should do onto that. And transition is always an issue. But once it starts on, I'm sure that it starts delivering the results.
Great. For the audience, just a bit of background of what Dinesh is. So Dinesh and I go back in Honeywell days, and exceptional leader, clearly paves the way to the young leaders and appreciates any new kind of ideas that comes on the table. He is never the person to say no. Excellent, Dinesh. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.
Right, and I appreciate you coming over.
Thanks. After meeting you after a long time. Thank you.
Yes, pleasure is mine. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.